Prices are up, rent is up, and interest rates are all up, yet Calgary real estate has no signs of slowing down. This market is pretty crazy. Let's go check it out. Hi, my name's Fyfe, your Calgary Realtor. If you're interested in getting into this market and creating a plan, I highly advise booking a call. There is no better time to start strategizing for 2023. These numbers are pretty wild, so I'm excited to dive into it. Let's go. Now I'm going to start this off like normal with the Calgary Real Estate Board write-up. Now I'm not going to read this over, so please feel free to pause the video. Basically what it's saying is that the inventory is as low as it has been all the way back since March 2006. We also haven't quite reached May 2022 highs, but on this pace, we're definitely looking to smash past that. There's also a little section here talking about how sellers are not willing to put their home up for sale because of the lack of inventory. So it's kind of a perfect storm where there is potentially sellers willing to sell, but because the lack of inventory is there, they are not able to purchase properties. So they're hesitant of putting their homes up on the market. So this whole thing is pretty crazy. So let's dive into the numbers. Now to start this all off, this is the total residential for all of Calgary. So all property types morphed into one. I will be uploading each individual property type in the coming week. Now total residential is up almost 1% year over year, where everyone thought there was going to be some sort of decline, but the amount of net migration coming to Calgary has really pushed that number up. You can see that the arrow is actually pointing down on the top there, which doesn't make sense to me because it's actually gone up month over month, so I'm not sure if that was just a slight mistake. Detached, semi-detached, row, and apartments have all increased pretty dramatically month over month and year over year. So let's actually dive into the individuals. But before we do that, I want to talk about the total residential. So all property types morphed into one stat. So this is Calgary real estate as a whole. For your personal situation, it makes way more sense to dive into individual quadrants and property types to figure out where you need to be for your strategy. January 2023, you can see it was $520,000. February, $530,000 for the benchmark price. March of this past month, $541,000. So it has increased by $10,000 every single month for the first 3 quarters of the year. You can see in May 2022, we hit our high of $546,000. That was right when interest rates started really kicking in. You can see that we're only about $4,000 off from that high. So at this current rate, realistically speaking, I'm pretty sure we're going to surpass May high of last year. Now, interest rates, I don't believe are going to go up too much more. They could. I'm not an economist. I'm not a mortgage broker. Talk to a financial advisor about that. But from what I understand, mortgage rates are relatively going to stay the same. If they stay the same, I believe that Calgary is going to increase in price. We have been deflated for a very long time. From 2016 to about 2020, Calgary had next to no action, which was quite surprising. And that's kind of when I got into the market. Now, in the last 2-3 years, it's just been absolutely hectic with the amount of people moving here. You can see that the days on market went from 42 to 33, now down to 27 days on market, which is crazy to say the least. The sales have gone up and the new listings have gone up and the inventory has gone up as well, but it's just not enough to offset the amount of demand for buyers in this market. You can see that the prices are increasing pretty dramatically. So next on the list is breaking it down into the quadrant types. Now again, this is total residential, so all property types in that quadrant morphed into one. You can see that the city center and the west are basically at the exact same prices they were last year with 0.2% year over year, which is 0. Southeast is actually at 0 as well. And you can see that the east Calgary, which is the most affordable quadrant in Calgary, has actually seen the biggest increase of 4.3%. Now, when you compare their price of $355 and you look at the west, $650, there's a $300,000 difference there, so it's quite large. Another thing to look at is just the graphs underneath them as well. You can see in the northwest just that massive shot up in the first quarter of this year, as well as south, southeast, and looks like northeast as well. Now the next step of figuring out how this report can affect you personally is looking at the months of supply. Now the months of supply is an indicator indicating how long it's going to take a certain property type to sell in that quadrant. So as an example, the purples are city center and they're all hovering around 2 besides townhouses. Now 2 months of supply means that if no new listings came on the market, no new buyers came on the market, it would take 2 months to sell. That's a little bit more of a balanced condition, definitely favoring the seller. Where if you look at everything else, it's basically under a month and a half. A lot of things hovering around a month of supply. Now 1 month is a very strong seller's market. So you can see all the individual property types and their quadrants and figure out which property types are in most demand. Now this is very important to consider when you want to get into the market. As a buyer looking at a townhouse, an example in Calgary South, you can see that it is very, very low, very, very tight, meaning that it's probably a little bit more of an aggressive market. Where if you're looking looking at, as an example, let's just say a detached home or an apartment in city center, then there's going to be still competition because the market's very hot, but it won't be as hot as apartments in the southeast or detached homes in the southeast as well. So this is kind of the beginning of your planning process. Now, like usual, I'm not going to read these out, but if you're curious about what the Calgary Real Estate Board has to say about each individual property type, feel free to pause the video and give these a read. This is a good opportunity for you to get updated on what's going on for the property type of interest for you. Now, finally, the microeconomic outlook for each individual property type in each quadrant of Calgary. I'm going to dive into this a lot more detail in my individual videos that I will be uploading this week. So just to give you a quick recap, you can see that the sales to new listing ratio in every single quadrant is hovering around 75% sales to new listings. You can see that the months of supply is hovering around a month and a half down to a month, especially for those townhouses. You can see these are the benchmark prices here for every quadrant. You can see that the year-over-year benchmark increase fluctuates from about 1% all the way up to about 11% in certain areas. And then the month over month, this is where the fun is. You can see that every single quadrant and every single property type have increased. I would have to say that the lowest increase was apartments in southeast, with the biggest increase being single family homes in northwest. This is very important to know. You don't need to know these exact numbers, but you do want to see where they're trending. If you remember from last month, single family homes in Northwest actually increased by about $20,000. So if you put the two together, it's about $50,000 to $60,000 in 2 months that they've increased. So if you're looking to buy or sell in Northwest, it's very important that you set up a meeting and do these things and go over this stuff well in advance, because you don't want to get into the market last minute and then just get whiplashed because it's just so much movement. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you very much for watching the channel. Please feel free to book a call with me. I promise I'm easy to talk to. Going over this stuff well in advance is very important. Both buyers and sellers need to figure out what the trends are, what the prices are, and how they can expect to conduct a transaction in 2023. So once again, thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.